Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Show with your host, Jeff Lopes, where we bring you the world's top athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, influencers, and their journeys to success.
This podcast is brought to you by NordPass. I'm sure many of you, just like me, use your Facebook account to log into multiple websites or applications. But I bet what you don't know is many of these practices give hackers a free shot at all your accounts that are linked to your Facebook account. But I guarantee NordPass can help you avoid these costly situations. NordPass is an easy and simple password manager that is quickly becoming the essential cybersecurity tool. NordPass will keep all your passwords in one place and has zero knowledge of your password manager. You know what that means? No one else could see your encrypted vault, not even the NordPass team. One thing that makes me feel secure is NordPass was created by the same team who built NordVPN, the advanced online security and privacy app that's trusted by over 14 million users. You know this is as secure as it's going to get. And right now you get 50% off a 2-year NordPass premium plan. All you have to go to is www.nordpass.com/JeffKnows or use the coupon code JeffKnows upon checkout. And not only are you going to get your 50% off your first 2 years, but you're going to get an additional month free of NordPass and a 30-day free money-back guarantee. Again, that's www.nordpass.com/JeffKnows. Don't leave yourself vulnerable to hackers any longer and try NordPass today. Welcome to episode 175 of the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. Excited for our season 9 premiere with our special guest, Juliette Brewer from the Reptile Zoo. Incredible conversation. Sit back, everyone, and enjoy. We are live on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on today Juliette Brewer. What is up?
Hey, how you doing? Nothing much. How you doing?
I'm doing amazing. A huge smile, so very infectious. I love this. I love the start of this conversation already. I met Juliette through her dad, Jay, which I had on my podcast, and they obviously work together in the prehistoric pets, I guess, social space, through the zoo, there's tons of layers here. So we're going to have a great conversation today. So many layers today. Yeah. I just want to start off. Let's start off from ground, like right from the beginning. Juliette, growing up, where did you grow up? Obviously, I have a history from your dad, but let the audience know where you grew up and how did you, what was your first interaction with reptiles or animals and how did that all start? Was there a love at first sight? Like how did it all start for you from a young age?
Yeah. So I was raised here in Fountain Valley, California. My whole life, I definitely am a person that I'm here and I have like a 10-mile radius. It's just the way that I work. And I love that. Yeah. I was truly, truly born into reptiles. So much of it is all that I know. And I love that. I'm into it. From a very young age, I don't think that I have an initial, this was my moment of reptiles because I truly, infancy. I have an older sister, and my parents started, it was Pet Country at the time, but they started Pet Country less than a year after she was born. Oh no, before she was born. For some reason in this moment, before she was born. So, all three of us, I have a younger sister as well. All three of us, all we've ever known is reptiles, but neither one of my parents have ever had any other jobs. We've always had big snakes and big lizards and small snakes and frogs and everything everywhere. So it's my upbringing. It is what it is, kind of thing. And I think that I have always had just a natural love for animals, specifically reptiles, because that is what was in my proximity. I didn't have a lot of interaction with a lot of other types of animals. And I naturally, because anything you feel comfortable with, you naturally are usually pretty stoked on. I loved it. It was a very interesting childhood. I was raised here at the zoo, which every once in a while it is funny because I'll look at the front counter or I'll look at anywhere in the zoo and be like, dude, I literally ran around here as a child, on my knees, learn how to crawl at these places. So that's always there's no Brewer family without the reptiles. There's no reptiles. It just feels like a very even switch. It's what I know.
So growing up, how did your friends react to that? Obviously, you're probably the cool kid because you had all these the zoo and stuff? Wouldn't you? Because everybody would want to come visit the store, the zoo, and be around that.
It was actually always like pretty separate. It's not like I didn't talk about it, but it's not, it wasn't like the first thing I talked about. I think that I think being raised, a lot of it was also like, oh yeah, her parents own a reptile zoo, but it was also very different. I'm 30 years old. So about 25 years ago, it was very different. It was not what it was now. Yeah. So it was more of like a pet shop. Yeah. Like a very unorganized pet shop. It's only become a little bit more like, organized in the past, like 15 years or so. So, and we've always had large snakes and stuff like that, but I didn't interact with large snakes a ton. So I think that in my mind, like, I don't really remember talking to my friends a ton about it. Cause I think I've never been someone that's like, let's talk about me. Let's talk about what's going on. Let's like this and that. So I've never been like, yeah, I truly, because I've thought about it. Because people ask me that all the time. They're like, what did your friends think? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel like we talked about it. It was just something like, great, your dad's a construction worker. My dad works with big snakes. Like, what's the difference? I see no difference. So I think that's how I've truly, because it's so normalized in my own mind. It is very weird that people were not raised with big snakes and things like that. So yeah, there's just a level of like, I didn't talk about it because I thought it was normal. Why would you talk about your dad's job? That doesn't make any sense to me. So,
I'll ask you a question. So like, I've been an entrepreneur for 26 plus years.
Yeah.
And I look at my son just turned 14. My daughter's turning 16. And I look at them and I'm like, will they follow my path? Will they want to work in with me one day?
Yeah.
Was there ever that moment where, like, obviously you've kind of followed the path of your parents. Was there ever that moment where like you strive for your own kind of like, let me figure out what I want to do for myself? Yeah. So when did that happen?
So about 3 years ago, I was gone for about 4 years. And it wasn't like a specific, like anything that made me go, that made me leave. I think I just was like, there was even that like moment I guess I was 23, 24 or something at the time. And I was like, do I even like reptiles? I think there's so much of me that had to go find me. Like the typical kind of stereotypical of like, you got to like break away from the family business to like know who you are and stuff like that. When I didn't work here, I was a nanny for a ton of amazing, incredible kids. I loved it. I took care of, within 2 families, I took care of 6 to 7 kids. Oh, wow. And a lot of it transferred over, I feel like, from one to the other. I had managed here. So it felt like a very easy management of like, you're just taking care of children, which like low key, like there are a lot of crossovers, but, and then very stereotypical. I did everything. I worked like 5 full-time jobs, and I loved it. I'm a very fast paced. I love being busy. I love, very task oriented. So much within that. I was a wedding coordinator. I worked a side job for, frozen bananas for a long time, which I like loved. I was a local missions director. I was a full-time nanny. I also did like, on like the side, because I was a nanny, I just got to go like around where I would get, like things and resell them online. Cause I thought that was just so much fun and like such like a fun little, like felt like a hustle where I was like, dude, I found this carpet on the side of the road, cleaned it, sold it for like $100. And I just like picked it up. I would do that. I love doing that stuff. So, I did that for about 3.5, 4 years or so. And I loved it. But I think that I just kind of, and like learned so much in that. I'm so thankful that I did step away and do that. Cause I'm very confident in who I am. I agree with the way I was raised and all of the above, but it was cool to be able to kind of put those things into practice outside and like what felt like the real world. There's a little world that happens here at the zoo, but you don't ever have to like utilize those things. And you go out and you're like, oh, wow, I do have good work ethic. I can manage people. I am good at this. I am task oriented. I love people. I recognize who people are and their gifts outside of here too. Like, there was so much stuff that I was very excited. It was fun. It was a fun couple years, but I also was like, I think I want to go back to one job Granted, this one job is like 85 jobs, but at the same time, it's all under one roof. So
do you find that you're a natural entrepreneur when you actually look at, when you're saying with the hustle and there's that big question, and because I have a ton of entrepreneurs on our podcast, and it's a question I mean, we talk about on a regular basis. Are you born an entrepreneur? Are you born to be an entrepreneur? Is it something that's kind of instilled in you from a very young age, just by visually seeing your parents and all this? And just by you saying that, like the carpet, the hustle, like, I mean, believe it or not, I mean, you're an entrepreneur. You're figuring out ways to make money for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Are you ready to unlock your full potential? I want to introduce you to the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, a powerful resource to transform your life today. With expert interviews, practical tips, and inspiring stories, this podcast is your roadmap to lasting wellness. Here's what a listener has to say.
I used to struggle with my health, but this podcast changed everything. It's like having a personal trainer, nutritionist, and life coach totally for free.
With over 2,000 five-star reviews, we're a podcast you can trust. The Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
I think strategically, I have that in me for sure. Do I utilize it? I think of like entrepreneur as like money-minded, hustle, gotta like get all this stuff where I'm like, I'm just here to have a good time. Like, and I will make money, but also like,
but that's a pure entrepreneur, a passion, right? You find your passion.
Yeah, I do have a lot of passion for just doing stuff and having a lot of energy behind it. So I'd probably say my older sister is like the true, like, well, I wouldn't say true entrepreneur, but like the like actual mindset behind it of like, no, this is like what we like. Yeah, I have like zero. I'm not a visionary person. So in so many different things, I feel like I've heard my dad say this too, of like, I'm opportunistic. If something's in front of me, I'm going to take it, but I'm not good at like, what do I want 4 steps from here? Literally zero vision. But so like as things happen, where like my older sister is like, no, if you want this, you have to do this, and she exceeds.
There's a process to everything.
Yeah, where I'm like, nah, the process will presume itself. Which I mean, it has not steered me wrong so far. I feel fine so far. So
I love it. Your dad had mentioned to me that you had done some humanitarian work and stuff like that. Do I get that right? Well, let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah. So I have a heart for people, and seeing people the way specifically Christ sees people, which I think is a very unique view, because it comes without judgment. It comes without, it comes without judgment. And I think that is so hard to do because I truly can be a judgment. I've got opinions about everything, let me tell you. But there is something very different and very beautiful and freeing when you stop and you really filter things through the character of Christ versus my character, because my character is a bummer a lot of times. But in that, I grow a ton. So I've gone a couple different places. I went to Thailand and worked in the red light district for about 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And so much of that is like just being there and being present and seeing people and understanding people, because reality is that in 3 months, you can't do anything. There's so many years tied up in that. There is not a like, hey girl, I see you're in pain. You want to come? And then be like, yeah, like it doesn't work that way. So much of the heart behind that trip was just seeing people, and the fact that like that does make a difference to let people feel seen and just hang out with them as humans versus
how long were you there for?
I was just there for 3 months. It wasn't a long time.
3 months is that's a chunk of time to commit to something, right? Which is very amazing. I mean, I just want to see you're just like, that's pretty amazing. I mean, I thought you were going to say 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So 3 months is a chunk. It's a chunk of your time. Do you have any stories from there? I mean, these are things that I think a lot of people don't realize what's happening in this world, and they don't really talk about it. So is there any stories you want to just to let people hear? The good and bad, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think so much of it, my takeaway is just sensitivity to everything of like, it's easy to talk about prostitutes and whores and ladyboys and all this. And like, I'm very sensitive to that stuff because I know people who are still there that are being sexually abused because they were born into it. There are flower girls that are being sexually abused, and she's probably still in that. So I think so much of it, kind of what I was saying earlier, is like seeing people, and that fact that like, we got to go every day. We'd hang out in the bars and just like when they're getting things ready, we'd help them out and just like literally just be people with them. But then you have to like buy a Coke to be able to sit down. So we would just drink a lot of Diet Coke, a lot of Coke in Thailand. But then you also had to like watch and see these same women that were expressing earlier of like their dreams and desires and the hardships of their profession, unfortunately. And then you had to go see them being abused, like, because it's all like you walk down the red light district and everything's happening right in front of you. And it's very intense. It's very, it's a really,
I would just assume this is very tourist filled. That's what it's all coming from.
Thailand, 100%. It was in Chiang Mai, 100% tourists. I mean, that's their income is tourists. So 1,000%, whether it's just people who are looking for conversation or people who are looking for more, it starts at those tables when you buy a Coke, and then you talk to somebody, and then you purchase them, and then you go upstairs, you go back to your hotel. And while we were there, people got hurt, they got beaten. Like you could visually see the bruises the next day. Like it's heavy. It's really heavy stuff, but you have to keep it. It's their job. They don't.
Is there when you're there, like, is your mission to just educate them or hear them, or is it to try to get as many out as possible? Is that even a situation? Like, are you able to do that?
So the getting out is a very, very long, that is not a 5-second, because there's so many layers of abuse that are within that someone who's been in abuse for a long time, you don't just leave because you're so scared.
Is it what they call a Stockholm syndrome?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you just keep on, your heart is like, I don't deserve anything that's good. Like, and so they just are like, this is what I deserve. So they just go back, or they're manipulated into, like their pimps are giving them food where they're like, in this moment, I don't have food. At least there I have food. Like, to where there's such such a stronghold over them. So for us, we stayed at a hostel that has a cafe attached to it that is specifically creates jobs for women who are in the industry that would like to work to get out of it. So it provides housing, it provides vocational training, and like therapy and talking through things and recognizing stuff. And then at the end, hopefully finding them a job, or not hopefully finding them a job, but placing them in a workplace. But so many people, like I have a couple friends that were like long-term, like years and years, missionaries in Thailand. And they like talk about how you're like, oh yeah, they've been out for a couple years and then something happened and they went back. Like, and it's just devastating. But there's just so much mental abuse and aggression and value that is behind that like they can't receive it. So they just go back to what they know. So there was, where we went, it's called Lighthouse in Chiang Mai, which is like the most northern part of Thailand, which is the most, still like culturally sound within Thailand, more of like Phuket and Bangkok and stuff. It's like LA. Truly, it's like LA. So it was really cool to be able to see that too, though, of like a lot of the culture behind it. And there's not culture, it's just very westernized. But Chiang Mai is like the most culturally sound to themselves kind of thing. But yeah, so much of it is just, for us, there's teams that kind of go through with like YWAM, and I went through an organization called Adventures in Missions, where they either have long-term people there or they have short-term, or 3 months to 1 month, something like that. But there's constantly people who are coming through. So it is an ongoing, just loving on people. So it's not like we were there for 5 seconds, and it is hard because I'm a human, I connect with them. That does not mean that the next person that comes in connects the same way. So it's very, it's hard. I have a lot of,
have you, of course. Have you ever, like when you are there, like you are there, quote unquote, for a mission,
Mm-hmm.
How do you separate your emotions? Like you just by you talking, you can tell you're very emotionally attached to it. How do you separate? Because it could be very draining on you going back to your hotel every night and having these thoughts in your head, or even getting back on the plane knowing you're coming back and leaving guys. Like how do you separate that? And do you are you able to?
I think that there's always a piece of me that doesn't want to separate it, because then that's also me not giving them a voice and being able to speak about or whatever. Again, I was there for 3 months. Like people have dedicated their lives to this and they've rescued one person from it. So, and it's worth it. Yeah. Like, so I think that there is a high respect in not letting it become normalized. Where again, I was there for 3 months. That should not be normalized in 3 months. No piece of that should be normalized. But I think that there's debrief. There's a team of people that were there. So we debrief and we talk about how that's not okay, and how I think it is very hard to be in someone's emotion with them, but not with them. I think not making it about myself, to be honest, at the end of the day, that's selfish of me to be in the emotion. At the end of the day, make it about me and my emotion that I'm feeling for this person who's actually going through it. There's a whole different list. I mean, there's a whole different list of things that I'm going through. But I'm processing that. I'm talking about that. I'm praying about that. I'm working through that. Where they're different emotions. They respectfully should be different emotions, because I'm not being touched at night unwillingly and not making so I think that's like a big thing within that, of just recognizing, and that I constantly have to reteach myself, because I can definitely I'm a passionate person. Like I definitely can feel emotions deeply and being like, I can't touch that because girl, you're making it about you. This is not about you. You're selfish. So I think that's like a big piece of it of, it's not about me. And I need to still be able to, if it's altering my heart enough where I'm not able to be there for that person, that's a my heart issue. That's a bummer.
Have you kept in contact with anybody there?
I have not. I'm assuming it would be very hard to. Yeah. I mean, they all have like Facebook and stuff. It was about 8 years ago, just in general. And I kept up with them for a couple years, just here and there. They didn't speak much English, but every once in a while we just like exchange like memes, or like back in the day, but like the little like emoji, like they're big emoji people. Through communication. So just like that kind of stuff, and every once in a while check in. But I have friends who went on that same trip that have gone and visited them multiple times and stuff like that. So
when you're there, the last question I'm going to ask with that, and then we'll talk about your other mission, because you are dealing with, I'm assuming some of these are run by organized crime or like you said, pimps. Like, is there any issue of safety for yourself? Like, is there any moments that you feel unsafe? Because you are trying to take income out of their hands, right? In a way, you're trying to stop these quote unquote entrepreneurs from making money, whether it's bad or good, right? Yeah. Is there any moment that you felt unsafe?
There was one moment, but that's like a whole different thing. It was like one of those things where one of the so basically initially no, because they are like, when we go in, we buy a Coke, because they also know that like missionaries come and like try to get the girls out of this hostile area and this and that. Like, so the owners of the companies and the pimps are standing right next to you, and they are eyeing you.
Okay,
you know which one is the pimp, 100%. 100%. And you can feel them eyeing the girl of like, you need to move on. You're talking to this person that clearly has no income. They bought a Coke for $5, like move on. I'm trying to remember. I think it was like kind of like they'd be like, okay, great, thank you, bye, see you, will you? And then they'd be like, will you be here tomorrow? Like kind of thing like that. I like remember that, where they'd be like, I'll see you tomorrow, right? Like so before work, like we get to talk. Their pimps are right there, but they would never do anything, because again, tourists are their income. So to be honest, being white, we were super safe. Because the last thing anybody needs is for tourists to not feel safe, because income all around stops, which is a very interesting concept. But that was very prevalent. I never felt unsafe. There was one scenario, but it was literally I was like in a bar we always went in doubles. We obviously never went alone anywhere. And a guy approached me, and there was a lot of stuff. I was like, okay. I just like was like, oh, I'm actually really terrified right now. He was, I think, under the influence of a lot of stuff. I like truly think he was like demon possessed, and all. There was a lot of stuff that happened that night. And it was a lot, but that was the only moment. But even then, I didn't feel unsafe. I just sat there and I just talked to him as though I was talking to anybody. But I was ready to pounce if I needed to pounce, like, don't come at me. But at the same time, like, I think I was very aware of the circumstance and what it could become. And if it did, I was going through my head of what I would do, and it didn't have to happen. And then I left and went home and debriefed and talked through it. And it was a very intense moment. No, because
it's just crazy when you're dealing with a country with such, like you said it numerous times, where tourism is their livelihood, right? I mean, my main company is a company called Kimura, where I've been running for 16 years. And we design and manufacture boxing and martial art equipment. And so we deal with a lot of Muay Thai gyms. And I mean, their national sport is Muay Thai. And you get a lot of individuals from North America, especially Canada, that'll go there and they'll train Muay Thai, and they'll live there for 3 or 4 months or 2 months and train and engage themselves indulge themselves into the culture and all that stuff. So it is very, very tourism based. So your next mission, where was your second one?
I went to Zambia, Africa.
That's pure opposite.
Yeah, very opposite. Yeah. I like to change things up. I'm not like great, I dabbled in this, let's do it again. I'm like, oh, this is something totally different. But this time I like led the trip. So we went and just like played with kids. We worked in in a preschool it was preschool to probably second grade, I'd guess. And it was wild. It was wild because the little kids don't speak English. It was very confusing on what our role was there because we were basically just glorified babysitters, which great.
So you didn't go there to like build a well or do anything like that. It was just more.
We didn't. No. So much of it was, and then we did like sports ministry. So every day we would go into this big field and we invite everybody and we come, and then we always started with some kind of conversation, some kind of engagement. Because as they were older, they learned English. That was actually like their primary language. Just as babies, they just like weren't they just didn't comprehend. Which, like, looking back, I realized there was so in Zambia, I think there's like 3 primary languages. The main one is English, so then most of them are English speakers, but as kids I think they were still speaking like their native language or something. I apologize, I don't fully remember, but I remember that we like could not communicate, and like, I'm being very honest, it was in the middle of, it was Maramba A, so it was like in the bush area. Seriously? These kids were wild. They were incredible humans, but it was truly like, there was never a moment where like, great, we're all like, you think of preschool, you're like, okay, cool. You kind of like get the kids together and then let's sing a song. Yeah. So we sang a lot of songs, we organized a lot of things, but we were never able to like get it together enough where the kids would listen. There were moments, literally, I don't even know what was happening there, I'm not gonna lie, where the kids, they were probably the toddlers, grabbed the head of one and kept on hitting it against the cement. And I was like, what's happening here? What is that? I will never forget that. Like, but we just played a lot. We would go there in the morning, play a lot of games, organize a lot of things. So the teachers would be able to be with the older kids and do a little bit more lessons. And then as we kind of got to know them a little bit more, they let us take care of like the first graders and second graders and help them with writing and reading and understanding concepts and things. So that was cool, but it was definitely like, who's going to do the toddlers today? It was wild. That was... How
long were you there for?
3 months.
Oh, 3 months too. So that
yeah, it was the same organization. They had asked me to come back and lead it.
Did these 3 months take a little longer to pass?
For various reasons, yeah, but it was very rough. It was a very interesting. I led it, which is it was a lot harder. So I ended up leading it by myself. At first I had a co-leader, and then she went to the doctor and found out that her back was not what it should be, and they're like, dude, you shouldn't do this. So then the day before I left I left to Africa with 6 girls that I've never met before. I didn't have a co-leader, and I was like, right on, let's do this. Yeah. And then 3 weeks in, my grandma passed away. I'm super close with her. And so that was real, and it was sudden. So it was out of the blue. So that obviously threw a loop for it. But, and I didn't want to go to Africa. So the organization, the way they do it is they're like, give me your top 3, or give me, your top 3 places you want to go. And there's all over the world. So South America, Africa, Asia, Hawaii was one of them. I was like, I said 2. And then I literally said, as long as I don't go to Africa, I'm fine. And then they're like, sweet, let's send her to Africa. And I was like, what the actual heckers? So that was a bummer. But at the same time, it was interesting. I think that in my mind, I was like, no, Africa is such a stereotypical, I went to missions in Africa. You're like, oh, sweet love. Where I'm like, I don't need that. Which not in that sounds actually very bad saying it now.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
I'm not about that cloud of anything, to be honest, where I'm like, more sympathy, oh, she went to Africa. I loved it there. They're incredible humans. I loved Africa. The culture is one of the richer cultures that I've been to. Absolutely incredible humans. I'm very thankful that I got to go to Africa. But it was a very hard, I wanted to go learn Spanish in South America, or and be able to indulge in that culture and stuff. But yeah, that was so when you are there and you said you're in the bush, you're really putting yourself into their culture, food. Yeah. Are you good with that? Because I'm just talking to myself. You do. Okay. Oh, so I would have a hard time. See, I would have a hard time with that. I'm just telling myself, I'm very picky with my food and stuff like that. So it would be hard to, I guess after a while you have no choice. You start really, when you're hungry, you right? Don't eat. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're into all that.
I immerse myself as deep as I can. I wore their clothes, ate their food.
Wow. Okay.
You take bucket showers. When you go to the bathroom, they don't have plumbing. No electricity. It was cool. It was very, I chose to, so they were inside cabins and stuff, or not cabins, but on the compound that we were on, we're just a room full of a bunch of beds. And there was another team that came, and they had tents. So I just slept outside for 3 months, and it was the coolest thing ever. I loved it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was incredible. I've never seen stars like what I've seen in Zambia.
I was going to say that the stars. What about the wildlife?
Not a lot. So we were in their, we were in their city. I saw 4 animals. I saw a millipede. I think I saw a chameleon at one point. I like the fact that I can't even remember. It was a bummer. I remember being this is so dumb.
Yeah, I would.
I'm in Africa right now. Yeah. We did go to Chobe National Park, and that was freaking incredible. That was the coolest thing ever. We got to go on safari. That was so.
I was gonna say you went on safari. That was pretty amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Because we saw wildebeest, we saw elephants, we saw. I think we saw a lion. I think we just saw a lioness.
Yeah.
I don't think we saw a male lion. We saw tons of hippos. I'd never seen a hippo before, obviously in the wild. I haven't seen anything in the hippo. Saw some huge Nile crocs. I was flipping out. Not gonna lie, I was the person. Granted, this was 2.5 months in, and I was like, I have had no animals. What is the point of coming here? I actually scared most of the animals because I was like, look at the Nile croc, and then they're like, well, I'm gonna leave because she's but yeah, so that's the wildlife that I saw. But naturally, I just saw mosquitoes. That's basically
But it's
it.
when you do something like that, it's pretty amazing to see them in their natural habitat. Huh?
Oh
It's a different
God.
experience altogether, right?
It's it's incredible. Yeah. It's cool.
It's very, very, very cool. So let's get back to North America. So you get back to North America, and when did you actually emerge into the family business? Like how many years ago was this now?
So that actually prompted, after I got back from both of those trips, I stayed at the shop for probably another year or so.
Okay.
And I think there's a lot that's connected in that, of like recognizing there's more behind these walls, and like, I haven't touched anything. Like, I'm just like, there's so much that I'm not even like, just of like, I'm hungry to go like get outside the zoo. Like, here I go.
Oh, so that was after the fact, those 4 years of things. Okay.
So I think that prompted a ton in me. And also probably a lot of like self-discovery of like, you come back from those trips, re-emerging is really rough. It's not an easy task, because
explain that.
What?
Explain more about that.
I mean, you just lived in poverty, in real poverty. And now it's still hard for me to eat at a buffet. I don't buy clothes. I only buy secondhand. There's just so many frivolous things. Like the fact that we have to park our $30,000 cars and pay $25 for it. It blows my mind. Like there's just like those types of things, of just a simulation back into our normal Western life it was a lot. There were a lot of things where it was really hard for me to hear like people's problems, because it's like, dude, you don't sleep on dirty asphalt. Like you're fine. Like, no offense. Like you're fine. I definitely like retracted a ton. I think that, started a lot of my own like processing of like, not like who I want to be, but like, okay, you've seen the world. God, I'm so dramatic. You've been places, you've seen the world. You've been places that like, it changes your perspective forever. And I'm very, very thankful. Like I'll definitely have encourage my kids to get out and like see the world. And like, especially living in Orange County, of like so much of it is so frivolous. And of even just like eating out, the fact that I ate the same damn meal for 3 months straight, and I loved it. I'm into it, whatever. But the fact that like I came back, and my friends, even just like the tipping point of like my friends would be like, "Where do you want to eat?" And I was like, "Oh my God, we're so dumb. Like, how American is that? I have 18 different cultures at my back door, and I'm still like, I don't know." Or even like, the like conversation of like, I have nothing to wear. I'm like, you have nothing to wear? Truly? I wore the same, I had hand washed my clothes. I mean, I'm not meaning like, oh, look at me, but like the culture of it, of like, you hand wash your clothes, and that is a place of community versus like this fast fashion of looking good for something, for somebody. So I feel like it's kept me pretty grounded. And I really appreciate that. I think that, I work very hard to keep an outward mind versus inward, because it's a bummer when you're just inward, because then I'm all stressed out and things are going on that are not that big of a deal. Where then I get to remind myself of like, hey, I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed. I have my needs. I do get to be frivolous, and I do drive a $30,000 car. Like at 10 years old, or even like, oh, you should get a new car. This and that. I'm like, why do I need a new car? It's literally works perfect. I will drive that into the ground, because why would I not? Like, I don't know. Things like that. Where those
I love this conversation. I didn't expect it to go this way, but it's a conversation that needs to be heard. I love it. I love it.
Go beyond their boundaries.
They don't. You don't. And I think we get so stuck with social media and
which is why I don't do self-branding. You said that before. It's not about me. I don't want it to ever be about me. And I love that my dad is recognized, like, because at the beginning he had like mentioned or tried to like, oh, what about this? What about that? Let's do an interaction with this person. I'm like, no, I am not the brand. The Reptile Zoo is the brand. Like, people had mentioned, like, oh, you should do it. Like my dad's Prehistoric Pets, like, oh, you should do Juliette the Reptile Zoo. And I was like, no, I am not the Reptile Zoo. There's so many people here that work their butts off. There's
different mindsets with it, and I'll just give you a different.
For sure, there is actual marketing branding.
Not the bad way, but I mean, by you branding yourself, don't take this the wrong way. By you branding yourself, the more bigger of a following you have, the more influence you have, the more impact you can have for a good. So don't think of it as a negative way, right? So
yeah,
because
I have not had a problem with that so far, so I don't see that as a problem.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it's problem, but I'm
prideful. Sounds very prideful, but I have not seen that as a issue.
No, you're doing amazing. You're doing amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, and when I met your dad, you asked your dad, like the first thing I said, I was like, could you introduce me to your daughter? I want to have your daughter on because I really, really love to interview her. Now, like I said, you got back into, how many years you've been back in the family business?
God, I don't know. So COVID has been 3. I think
COVID's blurred everything out, huh?
I literally don't know years anymore. So I guess 4.
Yeah.
I guess it's been 3. So I think a year or so, a little bit more a year before COVID. I had come back. So yeah, about 4 years.
How, when you first started to get in front of the camera, and obviously you have a camera in front of you quite a bit. How did you get comfortable with it? How did you get to the point where it becomes very natural? Because it is very natural right now when I'm watching you on kind of camera and you're doing your reels and whatnot. How did you get very comfortable? Because you seem, like you said, we're having this conversation. It's not about you. It's not about thing. How do you get comfortable with it? Because most people might be shy do you do a lot of takes? Or is it just one take all the time? One take. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I have a natural, I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody.
You're just being you.
If you don't like my videos. Yeah, I have a natural bubbly personality. I act the same to every human.
Yeah.
I think that is a big piece of and if I'm I also am task oriented. I will produce good product, and if it's not good product, it won't be posted, kind of thing.
Perfect.
So I do care of then there's a weird balance in my own mind of so my thing is I need to be represented. So I just make the videos, but then someone else edits them and posts them and stuff, which I'm very thankful for because I don't like that. But I think so much of it is that I also have a connection with the videographer and the editor. Which is everything for me. I think, so I've been doing videos, I guess 2 years now, something like that. 2.5, right at the beginning, right before COVID, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's definitely, I think I've gotten a lot better. I used to have to take a lot of takes because it's just hard you have all this information that you're great, I want to put it into a 15-second video. How do I maneuver that? And I talk a little bit weird. I have a weird way of presenting things. So I just would get tangled over my words, where I've definitely gotten way better at that, where now I'm a 1, maybe 2 takes where I'm admittedly, I do have somebody that helps me just because my brain gets really tired. I have someone who is the videographer. He's incredible. His name is Donovan. And then
shout out to Donovan.
And then Mason was helping us for a little bit of literally being okay, here's this animal, tell me 4 facts, and then I will formulate it into something and then do it. So I know the animal, I know the 4 facts about the animal, but there's something in my brain. I got a weird ass brain. I got a weird brain where it takes so much of my energy. So literally production value of I trust the people who are giving me the information of that I'm not just a puppet.
That's being an entrepreneur, right? That's being a leader. That's it. Putting people in the right place that you trust. And allowing the process, right? Which I love.
Yeah. So I have to feel connected to the videographer specifically because that's who I'm talking to. So a lot of my videos before were from our past videographer, and I was super close with him, and it was easy to make videos because we were just hanging out. At the end of the day, that's literally, and we both are stoked on animals, and we were just literally playing with animals and be okay, fine, let's make a video. Or something would go weird and okay, great. I don't know. So it was, if I did not trust the person that was behind the camera, it does not work. It will not work because I need to be represented. I really care about that. And when someone else is doing it, it's vulnerable. It's a super vulnerable thing.
Very, very vulnerable. Very vulnerable.
That is something I was not expecting of just the vulnerability of I need you to tell me this information again. You've said it 8 times and I'm so sorry. Or I yeah, I've gone through a lot of things where I feel really stupid. I feel like I don't know the information that I should know, or these animals that I've worked with forever that I don't. I have never gone to school for it or anything. I just know by experience of like looking at the animal, understanding the animal, responding to the animal, and going from there versus like they're from here, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah. So it is a very vulnerable thing to then tell a colleague of like, hey, I don't know anything about this animal. And they're like, you've worked with it for 8 years. And you're like, I don't need to. Yeah. So there's a huge vulnerability of also just self of like, you're filming me, like, brilliant. You're filming me. Let's do this. Yeah. So, and I'm not a picture person. I'm not a get in front of a camera person. I'm not any of those things. So my friends, it's so funny. My roommates only found out like 8 months ago that I even like do all this stuff. And
seriously?
They were like, yeah, I don't talk about it. I truly don't talk about it because I'm like, it's work. Kind of like what I was saying of like my dad with big snakes when I was a kid. Like I don't, it's normal. Yeah. I like, videos get uploaded and people watch them. Brilliant. It should not change anything about my life, anything
of
about
course,
anything.
Of course, 100%.
But like some things I'll talk about stuff and they're like, what the actual heck? But where was I going with that? I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
No, it is a very vulnerable thing, right? Vulnerable. You're putting yourself in front of a camera at any time. It's people gonna
feel what they want to feel. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and you have to understand that you have to eliminate that process of you're not going to give a rat's ass what anybody else says. You're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the animals. Doing it for the family. Doing it for the business.
Yeah.
Let's talk about animals quickly. Let's. Have you ever? It's probably the dumbest question I can ask, but have you got bit before?
A couple times, yeah.
by what and when?
I've gotten bit by thousands of animals.
Seriously, huh? It is, huh?
I mean, it's truly part of the job. I mean, I've probably gotten bit by thousands of little snakes, medium snakes, not as many big snakes because any
bad injuries ever?
I've gotten bitten by the gators a couple times. Where I mean, I wouldn't call them bad. I just had to get stitches. I don't know. Where I'm not very proud of my scars because that means I messed up. So I'm definitely not like oh, tell me your bites. I got bit, and it's like a bummer. I don't know. I feel like I disrespected the animal and I made him mad. It bums me out.
Interesting.
When I get bit, I mean, yeah, people who like brag about their bites, I'm like, no, that's literally physical representation that you messed up.
Interesting. I love that. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't take any pride in any of
my scars. I wouldn't say a pride. I would just more of I meant it in a way of being scared. I meant be like you're around animals that can be very dangerous, right? I mean, in any time, and you're handling them in your hand, and you're running. I see the videos. You're running around with them. You're trying to put them in cages. It's a situation where anything could happen, right? I mean, you could have a dog that's your best friend, and anything could happen. They could turn on you, right? So it's that moment. So when you are about to handle an animal for the first time, is there a preparation? Like, do you prep yourself? Like, so do you is it through your dad? Is it through other people? Do you study it? Like, how do you prep yourself? Like how to hold it, where to hold it, or like, where do you go through that process? Because there's obviously a way to handle every single animal differently, right?
Fully. What is nice is they kind of fit into categories of, if it's a monitor, I know the movement points, then I understand how to hold them so that they can do what they need to do. I'm in control, but they still feel fully in control. If it's a snake, if it's a little bit more rambunctious snake, I understand the movements of a rambunctious snake versus a chill snake or a muscular snake versus a whatever snake, or a smaller lizard of I know where to grab them to make sure that like I'm in control of them, but they don't feel like I'm domineering or anything. So I think so much of it. So the way that I do it is I kind of go through the process, see what category they fit into. And it is an educated category. I've worked with a wild amount of animals, very wide range of all of it. And I do know a little bit of like, sometimes I'll ask them like, okay, just tell me, is it feisty? And that's all I need to know. I don't need to know anything specific, but I do feel like I have the ability to be able to understand the animal like before, of like, okay, we vibing a little bit. We're not vibing. Like, okay, are you wanting to run away? Or you wanting to stay here? How hard do I need to like, in this front hand, holding the movement point, how hard do I need to like hold on to make sure that I don't get bit, but you feel safe in that. But I always, I say this for like when I do the gators, when I do a big monitor, when I do a monitor that I know is aggressive and I truly am like nervous about it. I'm like, okay, what's worst case scenario? And then I'm like, okay, worst case scenario is XYZ. So then in my mind, I'm like, great, that's all that'll happen. So,
but that could be deadly. I'm assuming no, probably not.
But if I think it's deadly, I will not touch it. I know my boundaries. I know the animal's boundaries. I'm not about to jump into something that I don't know anything about. I am not about experimenting on things. That's honestly, I think it's stupid. So like, I'm never going to touch a venomous snake. I know how to handle a venomous snake. I have been taught how to handle a venomous snake. I do not need to jump into that realm. It's not a realm that, or if there's, a big gator, like, or something like I've worked with these gators. They're basically domesticated gators. I know I am not going to go jump on a gator in Florida. That's stupid. But these gators, we got a feisty one and we got a sweet one. I will jump on that feisty one in 5 seconds because I know its next 10 moves. There's a very big possibility. Worst case scenario, he could headbutt me and knock me unconscious. 100%. But going in that, it makes it less dramatic because I am mentally prepared to get headbutted. So then I'm able to then take the steps to watch for that headbutt and make sure that I don't, and be able to, I think if you give yourself worst case scenario and are very grounded and linear and can you handle that worst case scenario? Do it. I am a confident person. It is foolish. No, it's not foolish to be not confident, but like, so much of the animals, if I go in a little hesitant, they're going to be like, what is this chick doing? She don't even know how to handle me. Versus like, there's so much behind animals of false confidence, of knowing the couple things and the false confidence behind that. And then you're learning while they're learning, but you have to lead in that. I have to lead. The animal can't communicate. They're just verbally or non-verbally communicating through their movements. I have to understand those movements. I have to be able to translate what that movement is meaning. It could be, I'm real mad at you. It could mean I am just really confused. I'm scared. Or it could be like, I'm like so sweet. Why are you grabbing me? Like, it could be so many different things. And each one has a different posture for me to kind of go back. But I think the biggest thing is knowing my limits, knowing the animal's limits of like, I am here for the relationship. I'm not here to get you out, which is like with all the things that we do. Like, if there's an animal that's not vibing, we're like, okay, great. We've got another one. Put that one away. We'll go get another one. There's been multiple times that we've gotten a snake out for somebody and my dad's like, nope, we're not feeling it. Or he'll just like interact with it the whole time because he knows that animal like the back of his hand. And then if it's still not doing, he won't let people interact with them and put them back or something like that. And then be like, okay, let's give this one that we know is like the sweetest thing ever. Always chill. So you do get that interaction time, but there is that respect with the animal itself, which I think that can be abused sometimes of like, oh, I'm supposed to be domineering over this animal. I'm supposed to this. We're like, no,
this respect level.
Yeah. So, it's like working with a toddler where you're like, dude, they can't even verbalize what they want. Like, they're just sad. They're feeling an emotion. Where I'm like, I'm upset. It's upset. Animal can be upset. I'm not going to hold that against them. Like, you can have a bad day. I had a bad day yesterday. Today's your bad day. So,
Do you travel? I mean, I'm assuming you guys travel quite a bit now. I mean, obviously
we haven't gone in a while. So so the way things are, everything is last minute. So
that's what your dad said. I told me and your dad was about 3-4 weeks of like, okay, today, okay, tomorrow, okay, today, okay, I got to row. I'll be back on for Monday. Call me Monday morning.
Yeah.
It was just like that.
Everything in industry is situational. Like, you could walk into the shop and half the animals decided to have problems. Like, or somebody called him and was like, hey, I need snakes for this. And he's like, I got to do it. They're like, that's my job. Like, he's hard to nail down for sure. I work here at the shop. I don't do all the other stuff. So I'm here. It's an easy way to, but yeah, there are so many things that are very situational in that. So, so we haven't traveled. So we're either traveling a wild amount or not at all. Like, we haven't traveled since October, I think.
Okay. So you travel and build as much content as possible. Okay. Yeah. Smart.
So, so like me personally, I can't multitask for the life of me. And because I'm like helping run the shop and I'm like the overseeing manager. So just kind of looking over all this stuff. And there's so many pieces to this place. I can't hone in and then be like, now you want me to be giggly and like have an animal and take a photo, or not take a photo, do a video real quick because, the scorpions do have this. So I'm like, no. Yeah. I film on Thursday nights. We pump out a bunch of stuff. I will do it then, like kind of thing. So same thing with when we travel, we go and visit our friends. It's really fun to be, that's my favorite part, is that you get to go visit people's facilities and see what they're super passionate about, and then get to like advocate for that, and learn about them. I don't know about a ton of the stuff that we get to go do. So it's super cool to be able to then be like, wow, who knew I would have been able to interact with an otter at Blake's place? Like so much cool stuff where I'm like, that's so fun. I love it. But it is long days. We're literally going from here to here to here, and you gotta hang. The travel part is a lot. It is constant. But it's really cool. It's fun.
I have a couple more questions before we end it off today. Top 3 reptiles or animals in general that you've interacted for the first time. You're like, wow, how cool is this? That was just like something like that. Obviously, you never thought you'd have an opportunity, or you just handle in person. It's a totally different experience. Like, just give me 3 different experiences with 3 different animals.
Okay. I think one is getting to interact with, in Florida, the turtle and tortoise and iguana breeding with the big old huge Galapagos and Aldabras. I think because we used to have an Aldabra when I was a kid, like a full grown one, and it was incredible. How
heavy do they get?
They get about 900 pounds or so. So the ones that we met were about 900 pounds and I think 102 years old or something.
Wow.
And they just had the coolest personalities. They were like the coolest things ever. So that was in Florida. And then I believe it was in Texas, going and visiting, primitive predators, getting to interact with the Arapima. That was wild. That was so fun. It was like a video where I made where you I had like salmon in my mouth or whatever, and then they're ambush predators, so they come up and get it. Yeah. But it's like this huge fish. It's like it felt like a big old huge fish. I don't know how heavy it was, but it was like a 7-foot fish. It was the coolest thing ever. And they're just so prehistoric and so they're absolutely incredible animals. Each little scale was like so cool and so beautiful. That was a really cool interaction. I loved that. And then I don't know what my last one would be. There's so many animals. I got to visit, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff. I'm trying to think. I mean, to be honest, the other cool experience that I just really loved was okay, can I make it 4?
Yeah, you can do as many as you want.
Okay, great. The tarpon in Florida, we went to the Keys.
The what? What was it? Repeat that?
The tarpon. So again, it's another really big fish that you touristy, you go and feed them fish, but you feed them out of your hands, and same kind of thing as the Arapima. But it was just it was so fun. I loved doing that. I don't know why I'm not a fish person or a water person, but it was really cool. And then I also really loved, oh man, I just lost my last one. I really like primates, but I don't always interact or they're very interesting animals. I think they're one that kind of freaked me out a little bit because I know their capacity to punch you in the face. I'm okay, cool. Man, I'm not doing justice. I know there's way cooler animals that or not cooler, but the list is on and on. I just love so much of it. Also is even with those animals, the people that we met were so passionate about those animals.
The stories they'll go behind it as well, right?
Yeah, the heart connection with it. So, but those off the top of my head, those are my favorite. How
often do you guys introduce new species or reptiles to your location?
You mean as on exhibit and stuff?
No, even do you guys obviously you guys breed, but do you actually bring in new a different species or different snake or different on a regular basis? Every year you have 1 or 2 new animals or anything like that?
I mean, we're constantly getting new things for display to be able to widen what we're able to educate on. So Yeah, we've got usually, so my dad, the way that he does it is like, I'm really into monitors and stuff. So he's got on a lot of different types of monitors that are really cool that we've gotten to interact with. And then with snakes, I guess kind of, but not necessarily, because we produce like retics and stuff, like, and we're constantly produced. That's like what we do for Snake Wise. It's halfway. If the snakes come in, I don't recognize, like, whoa, that's like crazy cool because I'm a monitor person. Or I'm just like not a snake person. I'm like, cool, right on. Where do you want me to put it? Kind of thing. But I know we've gotten some really cool indigos and crebos and stuff recently that are just like a really cool, the largest colubrid. Like, they're really, really beautiful animals. I can appreciate them, but I think that a lot of times people don't necessarily like show me because they're like, Juliette doesn't care. And not that I don't care. I just like, I'm like, I'm working.
I love it. Last question. Obviously, you said your friends weren't aware with your social media till you told them. Your face is obviously, your videos get a lot of views.
Yeah.
Do you not like get recognized, or people show up there and be like, oh my God, I seen you on IG. Yeah. Is it, how do you react to that? Because obviously you're very to yourself. You don't want to be out there. You said, does that feel weird at first when people started recognizing you?
I think that there is a level of like, I do reckon, I mean, one, they're coming here because they saw us online. Yeah. It is literally my job to there's so many ones. I love it because then I get to talk to people. Awesome. I get to hear people, and then they're like, it's fun because they like want to hear 5 seconds about me, but they feel like they know me, all this stuff, which is its own stuff, whatever. I'm not super into that because I'm like, you don't know me, but I love that I get to connect with people. And that I feel like I get to, I think it is a privilege that I get to, connect with people that like I don't know, but that they feel connected with me, that I've gotten to teach them something. I do think that's really cool, and like something that it's not lost on me for sure. But I do love, because it takes an avenue. Most people are traveling, so I get to hear where they're from. I get to hear why they're here, what they're doing. So a lot of times it's birthdays or anniversaries, or like we've had people who like a lot of people, surprisingly, or not surprisingly, but we're like, we've been in the hospital for the past like 3 days and she needed a good day. Like, that's awesome. Yeah. We're even like this is the one that kind of surprised me a ton. We've had people who've come through and like their parents have passed away, but they've always come here. So they come here to like remember their parents, which is beautiful. But like, I've heard it a lot of times that people use here as a drop off between parents, like separated parents. Which is interesting to me. Personally, it just feels so interesting, but I'm like, I also think that's cool. People recognize this as like a safe place of like, that the kids love. It's a very family oriented. It's a easily interacting, but multiple people have told me, and I'm like, okay, like brilliant. I'm happy. We've got people who have had labor in the front, like where they've like tried to walk off their labor. And I'm like, why would you come to the zoo? What are you doing here? So it's cool that because I have that, I always have had also a familiar face. So people will come up to me and be like years, like my whole life, and be like, I know you. And I literally am like, every time I'm like, sweet love, I don't know you, but tell me about yourself. Like, I promise you, I do not know you. So I think I've always gotten a little bit of that, but like, I'll go to Home Depot, I'll go to El Pollo Loco, and people see me, like, I'll go to church, and I like, you can like see the face of like, I think that's her. Oh my God. At my gym. So I've always kind of been whatever about it. There are moments when like a super viral video goes out and it gets a lot, like, that is a little bit harder because you just feel like people are watching you, and you don't get to like, you have to be on and stuff like that. So I go through periods of that because I would like to think I'm not a private person, but I'm also like a pretty private person where I'm like, I don't need to tell you about my life. You don't need to know. I am an open book to people who ask good questions and are in it to actually hear me versus like, oh, I know you from online. Here's 3 questions. And then I'll just like give it back to them. I love talking about people. So I'm like, great, let's talk about you. Where are you from? Kind of thing. So, I feel fine about it. it didn't feel, it was weird, but also kind of like what is my life? But my dad's always been kind of like in the reptile world known. So I think that I also am like, it's normal. Like we would go to reptile shows, and I specifically like loved walking around with him because if I don't know why, I think it was just like a cool pride in my dad of like, look, these people like care who he is. Cause they'd be like, oh, come on over. Like, look at my snakes, Jay. And I'm like, why do you care who he is? Like, dude. So I think there is a little bit of like, it's not something that's wildly brand new to my dad or I.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you one last question. A couple words. This is going to put you on the spot. A couple words describe your dad, or what your dad means, or what your dad. They do that. They do that. Okay, I've never.
Everyone does. Yeah.
Yeah. What does your dad, or what does your dad mean to you?
I mean, my dad means a lot to me. We're a lot alike, and we're very, very different. I think that I've learned a lot about people through him. I think I've learned how to welcome anybody in his family and treat everyone as equals until proven guilty, like kind of thing. Which even then he wouldn't say until proven guilty. That's me. His heart is always meaning for the best. I think that, I think he's an overly passionate person that is very empathetic. He cares probably a little too much about, not about bad things, but about like heart stuff where he's like, no, this is the way it's supposed to like, he's passionate. He's a very passionate human, which is great, is great. And I think he keeps himself in check to where he works really hard to keep that passion directed correctly. But yeah, he's an interesting human. Every single time because everyone always asks, like, describe your dad to me. I'm like, girl, I don't even know. I'm still figuring him out. Is
there, and why I'm asking, because I look at my kids and now that they're 14 and turning 16 and I see their characteristics really developing and growing. Mm-hmm. And I start seeing things that I indirectly taught them. So it's almost indirect mentoring. So is there one or two things that your dad indirectly mentored you that you've kind of taken on into your personality or into your daily life?
Yeah. I mean, I think my work ethic comes directly from him and my mom. My mom is a freaking beast. So I think from both of them. She's behind the scenes, huh? Like you don't see her in videos? Is she ever in videos? No. She's always been the hype of saying. She actually isn't like, she loves animals, but she's actually not that into animals even. Oh, seriously? I mean, she's stoked on them. She loves the beauty of them, but she like, if I like show her my monitor, every time she comes in, I go, he wants to go visit my black dragons. She goes, yes, baby. And then we go like look at my black dragons. But then if I take it out, she goes, ugh. I was like, who are you? I would definitely say work ethic. And the fact that like a self-motivation behind that, where like, I'm not going to let people dictate the way that I present myself and the way that my character and the way that I feel about myself. I think that comes from within me of like, and I mean, that also, I guess it's from him, but then also like reiterated through Christ of like, I know who I am because he's always taught me of like, be confident. What's the point not to? Like, why would you not? Kind of thing. I was about to say that's a strong, confident woman, which is as a dad, that's all you want your daughter to be, right? Yeah. Then you can accomplish anything. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that it is truly that simple, which it takes a confidence in that. And I think that I've never been told I couldn't do something, even in all my hardships of XYZ. Like, I think that both my mom and my dad have always been really supportive in everything that I do. And just like encourage me of like, great. It sounds like all you need to do is like XYZ. And I'm like, great, XYZ, I can do XYZ and A again. Like, so I do think I have a natural confidence that was kind of stemmed from that, but then also like working here a ton. I think I have a lot of influence from the zoo, which is directly them again. Just like go work. So don't get all wrapped up in all the other stuff. Just go freaking work. Like, and that like my actions will show more than what I can say. Yeah. I think work ethic is such a strong attribute to have. I mean, it's just, I have a lot accomplish of anything. I do too. And that's something I look at my children at a young age and they both have extremely strong work ethics. So I mean, it's something you can't go wrong with it. No matter what you
apply it to in life is going to be amazing, right?
They'll be succeed. Yeah. Because who's going to tell me I can't do it? So I'd be the only one that would tell me I couldn't do it. And I get to decide that. And if I decide I don't want to do it, I don't have to do it. No one's going to tell me that, which also he'd probably say that's the hardest part about me as well.
Yeah.
It's that I'm also like, I'm not doing that. And he's like, I know there's nothing I can do to make you do that. I'm like, damn right. You don't raise no fool. But again, that definitely comes from my mom and my dad for sure. They're both very confident in who they are and hard-headed in who they are, and they're not going to budge for any of it. So
I love it. This has been absolutely, let me look. We've been hour and 10 minutes at this. This has been absolutely, it's flown by too, which has been amazing. Where could the audience, I know it is, but your social media handle to follow your videos and all that stuff, or websites, anything you want to plug, let us know.
Yeah, we're on all the platforms as the Reptile Zoo. And then, so Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all the places. If you want to visit the zoo, we're here in Fountain Valley, California. You can get a special experience with certain animals if you go to the reptilezoo.com. But yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff. Get to learn about a lot of fun animals, and yeah.
This has been awesome. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. I'd love to get you back on a lot sooner than later. And thank you very much.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
That's a wrap for today. I want to thank our guest, Juliette, for taking time with her busy schedule to be a guest on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. We had an incredible conversation with her dad a few weeks back, and this one was an incredible conversation with Juliette. If you guys enjoy this podcast as much as I have, like all weeks, tell your friends, spread the word. We're trying to build something special here. Leave a review. 5 stars will be absolutely amazing. Myself, my team love spending time reading the reviews. Until next week, guys, keep moving forward.